afternoon or good evening whenever you're coming to this video. I want to do a quick overview of the instructions for course week 2. I want to remind you a little bit that you can always, you can make this bigger on your course page. These, if this is still open, you can close it so it's out of your way, right? If you're done with course week 1, you can close it so it's out of your way so that you just now see course week 2, so you don't have to scroll too much. All right, so what do we want to accomplish this week? We're going to really dive into the subject this week of what is psychology, right? How big of a, kind of to see the whole scope of what it is we're going to learn. And we're going to also really look at the history of psychology in terms of these perspectives. So perspectives kind of is, right, you might know this term from art, like how do you look at something, right? You could say, what angle am I looking at it from in terms of perspective? But we're also going to see that depending on the kind of education you had or when you were born, you're going to kind of define psychology ever so slightly different. And it's kind of like, I don't know if you've heard of the story of the 5 blind men who all walk up to an elephant and touch it in a different spot. So one thinks it's like a snake, right? And one so is touching the trunk, and one is touching the toes, and so thinks it's differently. One is touching the tail, right? One has an ear, so they all feel a different part of the elephant, and so they all think it's something different because they don't see the whole picture. And we have the advantage of looking at psychology backwards, and so we can see so many. We're the ones standing back looking at the whole elephant, although maybe there's parts that we don't know yet. And so you can't really understand psychology if you don't understand the order in which these perspectives came about, because they only had the advantage of knowing what came before, not what was going to come after. So first you're going to look at defining each of those perspectives, and then you're going to put it together in a timeline. And you can work in groups on this timeline or individually if you ever want to figure out where is it at? Up here. So if I want to find some classmates and I want to talk, say, hey, do you want to work on this with me? If you go up here to participants, right now you only see myself and my daughter. My daughter is the student, so I can make these videos, but you'll see all your classmates. And whether you want to write me or a classmate, you could click on this and then click on message, right? So you could write me a message or a classmate a message. And so if you wanted to work with a partner, you absolutely could. You don't have to. All right, so I'm going to go over each of these, and then you're going to turn in your Psychology is Everywhere bingo. And just a kind of this is really the start of our unit. I'll always put a document at the very beginning when we start something, and it's going to really have the overview of what we're trying to do in that unit. So these are our learning objectives. These are the tasks you're going to be graded on in the whole unit. And I'm a big picture person, right? So I'm always trying to look at how everything fits together. So we really are going to try to see in this unit that psychology wants to be a science. Whether it really is or not is always argued. Most universities do not put it in the College of Sciences, but to know something, to know true cause and effect relationships, we have to look at it as a science. Approaches is another word to say perspective, so this is where we're focusing this week. We'll touch a little bit on the different careers because you can see there's so much you can do. And then we'll go on to research methods, and we'll spend 2 weeks on research methods, maybe a bit more. And then we'll go to statistics, and this is don't worry, don't get frightened about mathematics. In this introduction course, we're just going to touch a little bit on how do we describe, which we describe talking about the middle, which is a central tendency, and the variance, how spread out data is. And then inferential means when I want to know, are 2 groups different enough from each other that it couldn't have been by chance? And I also want to be able to take information from a sample of people and understand, does that tell me more about the larger population? So we're going to talk about that in this unit as well. All right, and you can see there are no tests, right? We're just using psychology. And I just want to FYI that I am using quite a bit of what I use for AP psychology with psychology minus any testing. So sometimes you might still see AP Psychology on a document. I might miss it. For that, I'm sorry. Ask me if anything is ever confusing. If you tell me, hey, Mrs. Hinman, you left this in here, then I'll go get it out. But sometimes when I'm looking at things over and over again, that blurs into the background. All right, so the individual assignments. I can't click on these because this course is all set up for you to work in order. So I have to go to my teacher page to be able to click on assignments. So you're going to notice that my teacher page is a lot more complicated than your student page, and that's okay. So the first one is, what is psychology? This is a discussion. Please treat this like we were talking in class, which means you'd have to work from whatever you have in your mind or whatever I'm putting in front of you, and not completely, looking up everything, right? I'm not asking you to Google things. Oops, that got double copied. I'll try to fix that. It's only one video. So I want you to start by creating a post that says, psychology is the study of, tell me what you think. What do you think of when you hear the word psychology? What do you think psychologists do? And finally, what do you hope to learn in the class? I'm not super concerned about mistakes in your writing. I would rather see mistakes than have everything go through Grammarly or some other program where I can't really see how you write. In this course, I hope part of what you'll learn to do is express yourself and have confidence to do that without the aid of other technologies. All right, so after you make the initial posting, you're going to look at these sections of the book. You can just click here. It's an online textbook, our online textbook. Skim through it. You don't have to take notes. You're just trying to get a big picture. There's 2 videos here. I will fix this when I get off. I don't know why the third one came up. So watch the videos. And then you're going to reply to your original posting. How accurate was what you wrote? What surprised you? Is there anything that you hope to learn in the course differently now, right? Did something pop up and you're like, hey, I would be really interested in knowing more about that? And then at last, you're going to make a comment on one classmate's posting. Maybe it's a question, right? Or just try to get us interacting a little bit like we would if we were having a classroom discussion. So there's 3 things you're doing: original posting, follow up after you use the resources, and follow up. And then you're done with that assignment. And I hope that that takes Monday. Right, it says due here Monday. Obviously, you can work on things at other times in the week, but if you get this done earlier in the week, then other people will have time to see what you wrote. The second thing that you will work on is this perspectives concept map. All right, and you'll see that I gave you a template here for this one. So there is an overview of what this will look like. All right, so how is psychology defined? What makes it a science? What's the biological approach, behavioral approach? So you define these, put it in your own words. Please don't copy and paste. I really encourage you to handwrite. You don't have to print this. You could just roughly have the same shape on your a piece of paper, and also include the most important people, right? Which psychologists, right? You're going to have Freud here with psychodynamic. You're going to have behavioral. You're going to have Watson and Skinner. You're going to put the names in there so that you start to associate the most important psychologists with a certain perspective. And when you're done, you upload a photograph of your work. And that should take, please, I hope it takes you about 45 minutes to an hour, no more. If it's taking you way longer than that, let me know what's going on. All right, and then the next one is the timeline, and I have that assignment opened. All right, there's some you can read, you can look at a sample, there's resources for you to do this, right? I know that you could put this in some form of AI and it'll spit out a whole timeline, right? But I would like for you to make it because you're going to learn it. What will it have? 2 ancient Greeks, 4 early pioneers, the 8 perspectives will be in order, and who major contributors means the people. And then clearly label on your timeline, where does psychology cross into a scientific field, in your opinion? And some visual effect, some way to show that which perspectives are more scientific than others. All right, so 8 points if you have the Greeks, the pioneers, and the modern developments of psychology. 10 if you write down each event shows contributions that led to be a science, right? The extra points are really having you see what made this become a science. So that is what is up for the second week. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll just post this as a yeah, just write me, send me a message if you're confused about how anything should be done. Thank you very much.